For decades, Nike has seemed untouchable. It had the world's most famous swoosh, some of the biggest athletes on the planet, and a marketing machine that's so powerful it could probably sell running shoes to a goldfish. So why has Nike recently found itself under pressure? Well, first things first, it's Nike, not Nike as in bike. Now that we've settled the most controversial issue in business strategy, let's move on. But the answer to Nike's underperformance comes down to a strategic mistake that is surprisingly common. Nike became so focused on improving one part of its business that it weakened another. For years, Nike's pushed hard into direct-to-consumer or DTC. In other words, instead of relying on retailers, Nike wanted to sell more of its own products through its own stores, its own website, and its own apps. Now, on paper, this makes perfect sense because if you sell direct to the customer, you get higher margins, you get more customer data, and you get greater control over the brand. Business students and strategy bods would recognize this as a form of forward vertical integration. Basically, why do you share profits with retailers when you can sell directly yourself? The problem is that Nike became just a little bit too enthusiastic about this. The company reduced its presence in major retailers and focused really heavily on its own channels. But what they didn't realise is that many customers actually still discover their products through retailers. So many still like browsing in stores and trying things on. So retailers were actually helping Nike reach customers that it couldn't easily reach on its own. So in trying to kind of own the whole journey, Nike accidentally weakened its entire distribution network. Now, the numbers started to tell this story over the last couple of years. Nike's annual revenue fell by about 10% in the year to 2025, and net income fell by an eye-watering 44%. Then there was the innovation problem. Historically, Nike's superpower wasn't just marketing, it was creating products that people really wanted. But critics increasingly argue that Nike relied too heavily on a handful of successful franchises like Air Force Ones and Dunks, while competitors were bringing fresh products to the market. Suddenly, companies like On and New Balance weren't just alternatives, they were becoming cool. And in fashion, cool is a terrifying word for incumbent companies because it usually means that someone else is setting the agenda. Now, investors noticed that too. Nike's share price fell more than 30% over a 6-month period because concerns started to grow about slowing growth and stronger competition. Now, this is where another strategy lesson appears. Success can create complacency. Management theorists sometimes call this the innovator's dilemma. When you spent years winning with one formula, it's really easy to assume that that formula is going to keep working forever. But unfortunately, markets rarely cooperate. The result? Slower sales growth, excess inventory, and pressure on profits. Now, to be clear, Nike is not collapsing. This isn't a Kodak or Blockbuster story. It still generates more than $46 billion in annual revenue and remains one of the most valuable brands in the world. I mean, many companies would kill for Nike's bad performance. But it's a reminder that even market leaders can drift off course. The lesson for strategists is simple. Sometimes your biggest risk isn't your competition. It's becoming so confident in your current strategy that you stop noticing that the market's moved on. Or to put it another way, when everyone's chasing the next Nike, Nike still has to remember how to be Nike. After all, if running shoes teaches anything, it's that standing still is rarely a winning strategy. If you want to know more about business strategy and how companies make the decisions that impact you, please drop me a like and a follow.